Manfred said that lifetime bans end upon your death, right? Shoeless Joe Jackson died in 1951. It is now 2025. So that man should have been eligible a very long time ago. On top of that, by the way, Mets Yankees tied at 2, by the way. If you have to look at the complexities of these cases, right? So for those people who don't know, Shoeless Joe Jackson was a part of the Chicago White Sox team that went to the World Series in 1919, and they lost to the Cincinnati Reds. They were accused of throwing the game because the mafia paid them to lose intentionally. Now, the case went to trial. Shoeless Joe Jackson was acquitted of all charges. The other 8 teammates, because there were 9 of them that were accused of throwing the series, the other 8 who confessed and said, yeah, we did it, also said that no, Shoeless Joe had nothing to do with it. You also want to look at the statistics, right? Up until that point, nobody had as many base hits in a World Series as Shoeless Joe did. He had the record at 12 broken in that World Series. Is a player who is trying to give the game away going to break records in a series in which he's trying to intentionally lose? I don't think so. A lot of people
also had the only home run of that series.
The only home run of that series, and he also had an outfield assist where he threw out a runner at the plate from the outfield, the only outfield assist of that series as well. So I don't think a guy who is trying to lose on purpose would do such a thing. Also, it's on record that he tried to meet with the owner of the team at the time, Charles Comiskey, to try to tell him what was going on, and Comiskey would not try to hear any of it. That's number one. Number 2, we go to Pete Rose. It was proven. Now, granted, I get it. Baseball punishes people that lie. Pete Rose, for many years after he was caught to have done what he did, still denied it for decades. He got in the WWE Hall of Fame and still is not in the Baseball Hall of Fame. But anyway, Pete Rose, it was proven once the research came out that he only bet on games when he was a manager of the Reds, and he only ever bet on the Reds to win. He never bet on himself. He never bet on his team to lose. Meaning, if I'm managing a team and I put a bet on my team to win, that means I am not throwing the game. I'm doing everything possible in my power to win the game so I can win the money, right? So I don't understand how that's wrong. The other thing is, granted, you want to keep him ineligible. I get that. But the minute that MLB started going in bed with FanDuel and DraftKings and BetMGM and all these other sports books, that should have been the time that Pete Rose was deemed eligible again. Because how can you as a league partner up with gambling, but you're punishing a man for the same thing that you want your fans to do? Gamble. It's hypocrisy at its finest. Mind you, the man wrote a book. He came clean in the book. What more do you want him to do? He said, all right, I did it. And still, they would not reinstate him because they said he was still an active gambler on baseball. But how many commercials do you see in an MLB game? This is brought to you. Even replays, Pete and Grizz. Replays brought to you by DraftKings. Yep. You watch MLB tonight on MLB Network. They're going over the games that happened earlier in the day, showing you highlights, and it's brought to you by BetMGM. And I'll even go further. FanDuel has a sports TV network in some markets. And FanDuel Sports broadcasts in some of these smaller markets. They broadcast Cincinnati Reds games. They broadcast Minnesota Twins games. So you're partnering with the same people that you suspended the man for dealing with. It does not.
Yes, but Rose at that time, granted things like FanDuel and BetMGM, you had numbers runners. You had these illegal guys who would sit on the corner and say, hey, take your money over here. You know, what the action going over here? All right, $10,000, I'll take it. You don't pay me by Tuesday, lefty over here breaks your kneecaps. You know, it was a little bit different back then than it is now when